Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So Republicans had a massive week in the state of Pennsylvania. They netted over 5,000 voters in a June of an off-year election year in the state. And that is crucial because the Democrat lead, which was over 1 million in 2012, it dipped down to around 800, 900,000 in 2016, around 600 to 700,000 in 2020. And then come 2024, that lead was cut below 300,000. Now the lead is below 100,000 in terms of active registration. It's now down to 87,792. It is shrinking by the day. And on top of it, if this continues, Republicans would be on pace to flip it well before the midterms. We're talking about maybe during the primary around the midterms. And I will say this, because it is true that before 2018, you didn't see as much shift to the right in Pennsylvania. It kind of stagnated, it kind of slowed, and Democrats were gaining a little bit, which kind of showcased the fact that you did have this Democrat year building up. However, we have not seen that during this Trump term, and we've seen more and more voters register Republican. Republicans have gained 43,000 voters over the past 6 months. That means within a year, they would be on pace to flip the active registration in the state of Pennsylvania, which is huge. And we're going to dive into it and why this is so important. But first, I got to tell you guys about our great friends over at Allegiance Gold, because something is brewing. And the media may be obsessed about Trump's tariffs, but nobody's talking about the important thing except right here. And that is that starting July 1st, under new Basel III international banking rules, gold will officially be reclassified as a Tier 1 asset, placing it on the same level as cash and U.S. Treasuries. Translation, gold is money again. Just in the first quarter, thousands of tons of gold were quietly moved back to the U.S. from Europe. Meanwhile, central banks around the world are stockpiling gold at record levels. That's not a coincidence, that's a signal. So if the world's most powerful financial institutions are hoarding gold, why aren't you? Don't wait. Call Allegiance Gold, the trusted experts I've partnered with that have the highest ratings and accolades. They'll help you secure real physical gold and silver delivered straight to your home or placed securely inside your IRA or 401k. Go to allegiancegold.com/redeagle or call 844-790-9191. That's 844-790-9191 and mention Red Eagle, and you could be eligible to receive up to $5,000 in free metals, but only if you act now, because gold is freedom, gold is sovereignty, and starting July 1st, gold is officially money. That's allegiancegold.com/redeagle or call 844-790-9191 today. So Pennsylvania, it's crucial because we think of the big states in the country, the states that have the most electoral votes in poll. Republicans have essentially taken Florida, and they put Florida squarely in their column. Texas was looking like it could have been in danger for a while, but Texas has rebounded. California and New York are blue. I'm not expecting California to go anywhere anytime soon. I don't even think New York is going to be really at a risk of, flipping Republican in 2028, maybe in the 2030s, depending on if trends continue. But it is true that both of those states are not exactly the best for Democrats because they're getting bluer, which means more House districts that are going to go into the Republican column, and they're losing House districts, and still House districts are flipping red. It's a big mess for the Democrats. And obviously, we could fill out the safe states for every single election, or the states that are going to go one way or another. I don't expect the safe states to really change that much, at least in the intermediary. Now, it is true that we saw states like New Jersey get within 6 points, and we could see a state like, Alaska. I still think it's going to stay Republican, or Kansas at least get a little bit closer, but those states should remain in the hands of the respective parties, and Republicans are doing really well in Nevada, Arizona, given certain trends, and they've shown no signs of stopping there either. But we'll leave these states the way that they are besides that. And I think that the main thing to focus on is that Republicans have a floor of 236 electoral votes entering 2020, even pre-COVID. Like if you were filling out the map before like the competitive states, it was like 125. So they've basically doubled that already out of the gate. And I don't expect them to lose North Carolina, given the registration trends and data. Georgia is moving a bit to the left because of the Atlanta area's growth and its leftward shift. Even though it may stagnate, it's not going to move 5 points to the left every cycle. It did rebound in 24. It's still not a state Republicans can go into the election and just count on winning. And in fact, Georgia and Pennsylvania were not that far off in this most recent election. Pennsylvania voted for Trump by 1.7 percentage points. It voted to the right of the nation narrowly. That electoral college popular vote bias is not really as big as it was, and I think you're going to see Democrats start to shift away from the abolish the electoral college talk and start talking about abolishing the Senate. That's a whole nother topic. We've covered that. But Georgia, this was a close state as well. I mean, 2 points. If you go and look at the margins, 2.2 percentage points. Yeah, that's not really all that big of a gap between those two states. 2016, Georgia was R+5. Pennsylvania was not even R+1. So you see the shift in Pennsylvania. You see a shift in other parts of the Rust Belt and even a lot of the swing states. But Georgia's probably the one. And if you were to compare the election results from 2020 to 2024, I think besides Wisconsin, I think Georgia was the state that moved the least, between the elections. So keep that in mind. I don't think Georgia's the next domino to fall, but even if it did, it wouldn't get Republicans to 270 unless they picked off New Hampshire, or they could get to 269 with Nebraska second. Pennsylvania is the most important state because if you're winning Nevada and you're shoring it away, and Arizona and North Carolina, it's kind of like titanium, lean Republican. I think if it's a really good year for the Democrats, they could pick it off, but I'm not necessarily expecting it given the state that their party's in right now. Pennsylvania, however, that's a state that the Republicans are kind of operating in a very strong position and sitting on a gold mine. You're talking about the past week. They wiped out the Democrat advantage by 6% in 1 week. And Democrats were saying, we're gaining in the state because they had like a good month, but they barely gained because there was a primary in Philadelphia that was taking place where you had a lot of people that were crossing over to the Democrat side. Does seem like all of that is wiped away and then some. And I think that the bottom has not even begun to fall out for the Democrats. You're talking about a state that is a majority white working class electorate. There's also a very overlooked Hispanic population in eastern Pennsylvania, whether it is in inner city Philadelphia or just certain parts of Nepaw, the Lehigh Valley, you name it. You have plenty of demographics that have been moving to the right, even white Catholics, Italians, Polish voters, all of those groups have been moving to the right as well. Under the Trump years and even a little bit before that, but it's really solidifying itself during this realignment that we're seeing. And it's just a state that overall is very favorable to the Republicans. Biden was basically they said the third senator from Pennsylvania, even then took miracles to barely get him to cross the finish line. Then we get to 2024, and everyone's saying, well, the state's close because the Philly suburbs. And then Donald Trump and the Philly suburbs did better in all of them because not everybody in the suburbs is like some, cucked voter like a lot of people caricaturize it as. And there's also a heavy working class and white working class population in those suburbs. But Philadelphia city proper, that was a hydrogen bomb of votes for the Democrats, but not exactly as much as it has been in years past. Donald Trump got 20% in Philadelphia County. I believe Romney only got 11 or 12 or something like that. And Trump also got 144,000 votes. Romney didn't even get 100,000 in 2012. So when you look at that, It definitely, turnout was up. Democrats were happy about that, but it didn't net them any votes, and the county moved right by 5 points, and the entire state keeps moving to the right. And there's plenty of reasons to believe the state could continue to move to the right. And the more voters that they add, especially because a lot of voters that are like young voters and just turning 18 are registering more Republican than ever. And it's getting worse and worse for the Democrats as the years go on in that department. And the state, in part because of that, is moving to the right. It is true that, people will look at the election and they'll be like, well, Pennsylvania only voted 0.3% to the right of the nation, but in 2020, it voted over 3 points to the right. So they'll use that as like an excuse that it's like trending to the left. And that's just not true, because when you have big states with different demographics and sub-demographics just moving right off a cliff, and you have a massive drop-off in support for Democrats in those states, that would explain why you would see such a trend. Like, most counties in Florida have been getting and adding plenty of net Republican voters. Every county in Florida moved to the right. Most trended to the right compared to the nation, but compared to the state overall, yeah, Miami-Dade, and a couple other major counties were the only ones that really trended to the right compared to the other counties in the state. But every county moved right. Florida's not getting bluer, and many of those other parts of Florida will not get bluer over time. So trend is not a perfect metric to use. But the bottom line is that Pennsylvania is a state where you have a gold mine for Republicans, and they've barely begun to crack the surface. Dave McCormick beat Bob Casey in that Senate race there, and that was unexpected by a lot of people. I thought it would be close. I did predict the correct margin that McCormick would underrun Trump by. It was, I believe, 1.6 or 1.5, 1.6%. I didn't think Trump would take the state by 1.7. I had him winning it by 1.3, and I had McCormick barely losing. He barely won. Republicans flipped 2 congressional seats in eastern Pennsylvania. It does seem like they will hold on to at least one of them next fall. I think they could hold on to both. They will also have to defend the left-trending 10th district, though. That is true, but we'll see if they're able to do that. But they also flipped the attorney general race, as you can see. They won the Treasury election by a lot. Stacey Garrity won by 6 points there. The Attorney General's race was won by 4 points. The auditor's race was won by 6 points. So these are actually races where you have the statewide candidates outrunning Trump, even though a lot of that is because Trump is getting voters out that will just vote for them anyways. And it is true that many of them were incumbents and relatively popular. But the fact that Republicans are occupying the statewide races, I don't think they get the governorship next fall, but they could make it interesting, though, and that would be huge and a testament to how the state's moving if Shapiro has a little scare, and it could impact his 2028 ambitions. But the fact that they're, filling up these statewide offices, you have a Republican senator, you have the Democrat senator acting like a Republican, at least in terms of rhetoric sometimes, you have Trump winning the state, you have Republicans possibly flipping the voter registration, and if they're able to get the turnout necessary in the state, there's really no reason why they would go out there and fall short in 2028 at the rate things are going. And if that's the case, the Democrats are going to be locked out of power and they won't win. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.